Hi everyone, my name is Katelyn and I'm really excited to be able to share this teaching tip video with you today. For many parents, bearing the weight of their child's education can seem heavy and overwhelming. At least it can sometimes. A lot of times we hear a lot of parents saying that they feel that way connected to the task of teaching their child how to read. It's very important, right? No wonder why we sometimes feel the weight. Well, rest assured that since the day that your child came into your world, you instantly became their greatest teacher. It can be natural or easy to want to separate our book work from our regular day-to-day teaching, but they're really not that different. Just as we teach them how important it is, oh, don't touch the hot stove, in the same way, we can go ahead and teach them their letters and their letter sounds and how they build into reading and making words. It's really not that different. You are just as capable to teach your child practical lessons as well as their school lessons. No one loves your child like you do, so no one is as invested as you are to see them succeed. Today's video is going to be my attempt at tackling some of the most common questions that we receive when it comes to teaching children how to read. I may not be able to tackle all of them, or I may not hit on the issue that you're facing, but I will certainly try to give as much encouragement and ideas as I possibly can to at least help you know to keep going. Don't give up, don't despair, keep going. I'm going to lay out the courses that we provide to help you succeed in this area and hopefully some creative solutions and ideas for kids who need to build in some more practice. Believe me, if you have been able to make it this far through a lot of late nights, those potty training years, challenging toddler years, you name it, you can completely handle teaching your child to read. Just think of it as the next stage in their development. If you got through those other things, you can certainly get through this. After we get over the fear of teaching our child to read and we start to get used to the idea, and now we're committed to teaching them, it can almost be easy to, in our minds, flip a switch to an extreme. We can go from feeling unqualified to teach them, how am I going to do this, to finally you're like, okay, I'm committed. And then it's like, we're gung-ho and we're like, okay, I've got to get them reading. What do I need to do to hurry this up and accomplish this goal? Well, sometimes we can get going in the opposite direction a little too far, and it's important for us as parents to not only pace our students, but also ourselves. Being excited about teaching our children to read is totally amazing, and you should be excited because it's a wonderful time. But if our child happens to struggle, don't fear, it's okay. It's just important that they might need to pause. We might need to see that and recognize that and pause right along with them. The goal is not achieving the ability to read by a certain amount of time. The goal is just growth. Are we growing? If the goal is learning to read, what are the steps that this particular child needs to take in order to grow closer to reaching the goal? For one child, it may click very quickly, as it did with our oldest. And then for some of our other kids, they've gone a little slower and at a totally different pace. And that's okay. They have just needed more instruction and more assurance. Each of our kids developed and reached their milestones so much differently than the other. It could be so easy to want to compare our kids, but I've learned that comparison only steals celebration. If I get distracted comparing my kids, I'm going to miss out on celebrating their unique differences and what makes them them. Each child has a unique temperament, personality, and learning style. The approach by which we educate them should reflect their unique qualities. If we as parents start to feel pressured that they aren't reading yet, let's take a step back and examine our motivations and why we are concerned. Maybe they do have a legitimate need that requires some extra help. Let's research and call a friend and find them that help. Who have you used to help with this particular issue connected to reading? Go and get those resources. Perhaps the pressures that we feel are just pressures that we've put on ourselves, and in so doing, we've put them on our kids. We would never want to go out of our way to put that on our kids, but sometimes because we're feeling it, it just kind of happens without us realizing it. So it's a good reminder to take a moment to celebrate the child right where they are and stop comparing and celebrate and say to them, I celebrate you for who God made you to be, just as you are, not for what you do, not for how you perform, just for being you. There's only one of you, and I celebrate you. It's important to remember that we should put ourselves in our children's shoes as well. They are taking in so much information constantly. If you think about it, from table manners to social situations, proper letter and number formation, reading skills, language exceptions, and we know there are many, they're taking in a lot. Let's remember to show them grace. Just because they can't remember in this moment that SH blended together says shh, it doesn't mean that they don't know it. It just takes work to recall all of the new information that's coming in. So I encourage you to try and think back on a lesson or a concept that you worked really hard on with your student in the past that they eventually got. For us, it was signing thank you. I felt like I did that sign on repeat with our oldest, and he never did it back. Like I just kept doing it meal after meal, baby food after baby food, sitting in the high chair, and nothing. He just stared at me until months went by and that little guy finally did it. And he goes, he just signed it. And I was so excited because my hard work paid off. It doesn't really sound like that big of a deal, but to me it really was. And he learned it. That experience taught me that repeated exposure can produce the learned lesson. He wasn't going to get it after I showed it to him a couple of times. He had to continually see me doing the thank you sign in the moment, right after a meal or right after something was given to him. He had to see it in context. And over time, those connections were made, and he finally got it. So there I was exhausted, making that sign, worried if he'd ever get it, and one day he did. So that is still kind of my go-to reminder for whatever our new challenge is with our kids. Back then, many years ago now, it was signing thank you after eating baby food. But then it became learning how to use the potty, and I just thought potty training would never end. I didn't see that we would ever be out of that many kids in diapers all at the same time and trying to get out of them. But we did. We certainly did. And I can look back season upon season, and each season that we go through, even though it feels like we're never going to get out of it, we will. We can use getting out of that season to help us get ready for the next one. So we got out of potty training, and then we were on to reading together, playing together, learning to share, learning our ABCs, and now we're ready for reading. So no matter what the stage or season of life, remember, be patient with them as they learn. They're going to get it. Each milestone really helps prepare us for the next one, and I'm so thankful for that. So when we think about reading readiness, the first thing that we need to consider is the child's reading readiness. You can view the placement guide for language by visiting the frequently asked questions section at masterbooks.com. You can also find the reading readiness placement guide by visiting the product page for Foundations Phonics or language lessons. It's not actually a test, it's more of a guide that you can read through and see where your child fits in that guide, and it will help you determine the level that they need. We do recommend a gentle start in the young years so that children have time to grow and develop in other ways before they're ready for long or formal lessons. So the recommended path for language with Master Books is we recommend starting with stepping stones around age 4 for preschool, followed by Simply K in kindergarten. Simply K is going to take a whole child approach to learning. They're going to learn Bible, life skills, social skills, memory work, communication skills, safety and hygiene education. They're going to learn their letters, letter sounds, writing their letters properly, and beginning some simple CVC words and rhyming. CVC words mean consonant, vowel, consonant, such as the word cat. Once a child has completed Simply K, the next course in the learning path is going to be Foundations Phonics. Foundations Phonics is geared toward first grade. This is what it looks like. It's geared toward first grade. It's scheduled to be an 18-week course, and it teaches children how to read words, sentences, and paragraphs. It also teaches them how to blend. It's designed to be followed by language lessons for Living Education 1. So you're going to learn your letters. You learn them in kindergarten with Simply K, but Foundations Phonics takes it to a whole new level. And what I love about Foundations Phonics is how they're not just learning letters for the sake of letters, but being very intentional that what they're learning is going to also connect them to a biblical truth and help them to remember God's love for them and His plan for them. So that's an absolutely wonderful course that we really love. We actually just started it with our youngest. So after you complete the first 18 weeks of language lessons, of Foundations Phonics, you're going to start Language Lessons 1. This can be spread out to be a 1-year course if you need to take it a little slower, but you could also complete it in 18 weeks in the last part of your first grade year, and that will conclude and make a 36-week language course that's for first grade. So it's really, really a wonderful course, and it comes with 3 books that you need to purchase because they are written into the course. The first book that you're going to go through with your student as you read is Not Too Small at All. We really love the message of that book. You also will go through Charlie and Trike's Grand Canyon Adventure, and you'll close out your course with The Door of Salvation. This is a Lift the Flap book, and I just love it. I love reading the message to my kids all the time, what Jesus did for them. And what a better way to incorporate not just reading for reading's sake, but what we're reading. We get to focus in and learn the most important thing while we're learning how to read. It's really awesome. Motivated and interested in learning how to read. They could know a few letter sounds, or they could know all of them. A child is ready for Language Lessons 1 if they have completed Foundations Phonics or another phonics course. If they can recognize letters and sounds, if they can read short vowel words, words with consonant blends, and simple sentences. They will also need to be growing in their handwriting stamina. And after they finish Language Lessons 1, a child is going to be ready to continue the Language Lessons series. But what if you got a little bit off in your language learning path with masterbooks? What if you transitioned in, coming off of a different curriculum, and you're just not sure where to be, not sure what thing is right to choose? Or what if you ended up accidentally doing Language Lessons 1 and Foundations Phonics simultaneously in the same semester? Or what if you just did it all right, but you ended up being done a little early and you've got a couple of months before you're going to stop for summer and you're looking to fill in with some extra activities? Well, hopefully today's video will give you some ideas, activities you can do, give you some more resources that you can fill in the gaps with or the blanks with for your particular situation if you find yourself needing extra practice or needing to slow down or just needing to focus in on a few key concepts. All is not lost if you're not just right where the schedule says you need to be. I don't think my children and I have ever just stayed perfectly on schedule because that's just not life. Sometimes things happen and that's okay. So just be encouraged. It's okay to not be just right, checking that perfect box. It's okay. We're all going to get there. So first I suggest the main thing to do would be target the area that needs more work and focus. It could be letter sounds, letter blending, or letter writing. Try and determine what your unique student needs to slow down and focus on in greater detail. Since every student is different, We get the opportunity as their teacher and their parent to know them more deeply and to help them. We are there day in, day out. We see their struggle. We see their victories. We know what to work on. That right there is truly an amazing thought. They're not left behind. They're not overlooked in any way. They can move on forward, or they can take a break and pause and focus on some more key concepts now. Whatever they need, we're there to catch them. They are upheld by the most loving teacher in the world, and that's their parent. Some families, all they need to do is go back and repeat some concepts or lessons from Foundations Phonics. And for many people, that's just solution enough before they want to hop into Language Lessons 1. Some children need to take a break from Foundations Phonics after they've completed it, and they just need to practice reading a little bit and build up some stamina and skill before they can get ready for language lessons. Be sure to choose books that interest your children. If you have a son who's really interested in construction, find some books to read together that would make his time of reading fun. We want to encourage our children to read so that they can be learning almost without even realizing that it's hard work. It can be truly fun. Be sure to read the front and back material from Foundations Phonics and Language Lessons 1. There is just a wealth of knowledge and extra ideas and teaching tips there that are just so incredible to work through. There's copy work, there's games, all kinds of great ideas. This is the back of Language Lessons, and it's just pages and pages of great ideas and extra things to work on, so make sure you don't miss that. You can incorporate what you're learning by applying it to what you are reading. So when you're reading a story to your child, or if they are reading to you, take that teachable moment and point out the subject of the sentence. Oh, look, that cat, that's the subject of the sentence. That's what we're talking about. Any teachable moment we can use will be an opportunity for reinforcement. Go beyond the text and pause to ask comprehension questions like, how do you think they feel? How would you feel if that happened to you? Have you ever felt like the mouse in Not Too Small at All? Ask them some questions that you can come up with that are going to just go beyond just reading. Some children will feel a little overwhelmed by the amount of text on the page, so consider using a sheet of paper that you can't see through or an index card and cover up all the words that are to come and put the paper right under the line where we are. Let's only focus where we need to be. And that can really ease some tension for some kids. When you're reading together, stop and point out letter blends as they appear in the sentences. Most children are not going to want to stop the story too much for these lessons, but on occasion, it can make a connection from their school book to their reading book, where they can see that CH mixture, that blend right there on the written page. They can say, oh, I saw that in my language book. Now I see it used in a sentence in this book that I'm really excited about. And hopefully the next time they see that CH blend, it will just help make a further connection. It's helpful sometimes to see things in a different format. You can consider finding ways to be just really silly together. You can draw sight word cards with pictures. You can use stickers. You can talk about how letters want to be tricky sometimes, and they want to fool your child. Make it fun. Make it a fun game, because laughter is really important. It helps us all relax and associate fun with learning. And I know that as mom, sometimes I can get a little more, intense or serious, and I need to remember how important it is for my kids to see me laughing while we're learning as well. Just remember, sometimes silly things can help us make connections. We can remember a letter blend easier if we have something funny or silly to attach the memory with. So let's try to make further connections, and it's okay if we have to get a little silly to do so. Other ideas include creating index card word labels for common objects throughout your home. You could encourage your children to write these words, or you could write them, and then you could paste them throughout your home. You could label your door. You could label the cabinet where you keep your dishes. You could label all sorts of things and go along and look for the word door. And they're seeing it every day, and it's making a further connection. They're seeing the word dishes, which is going to be a tricky plural word with that ES ending. So whatever you can come up with, there to label things around your home could be really helpful. You could use the Big Thoughts books. These are the Big Thoughts for Little Thinkers books. There are 4 in the set, and each one is going to teach a big thought for little thinkers. The big thoughts include the mission, the Trinity, the scripture, and the gospel. And they're so cool because they really do take large concepts and make it easy for children to understand, and for adults too. These are super helpful. So the neat thing is, at the bottom of each page, you're going to find a scripture reference that's going to reinforce what you're learning about in the story. So you could take these and pull out your Bible, and you could say, let's look one of these up. You could encourage your child to get to know what the table of contents is. How does an index work? Let's figure out these page numbers, these book names. Let's find references, like what is a chapter and what is a verse, and more. So say the verse, the reference you need to look up is Romans chapter 1, verse 20. You could remind your child of the letter R and the sound that it makes. You could discuss Old Testament and New Testament and how the Bible is divided. So you could get on the hunt for the R for Romans. Say it's in the New Testament. You could begin to identify and teach the larger chapter numbers. So once they finally find that R, okay, let's look for the big number 1. Okay, you did it. Now we're going to look for the teeny tiny 20. Help me find it. And celebrate when you find it, and then read it to your student and talk about what it means. It could just be another fun way to get in there and create more practice, kind of like a mini scavenger hunt in the Word of God. Co-reading, that's a practice of reading where the adult reads a bit and then asks the child to read a word or sentence. You can do this in a variety of ways, but the goal is to simplify all of the text on a printed page so that the child doesn't feel like they have to read the whole thing. If you feel comfortable highlighting a book, you could selectively highlight the portions that you want your child to be responsible to read. So they can look at that and say, oh, I only have to read those parts that are highlighted. That's great. And I love that language lessons in some of the later years in level 2 and level 3, they do that. They have some highlighted portions, and that really has helped my kids. They do get a little overwhelmed to see a whole page of text, but when I tell them, oh, it's okay, you only have to read the highlighted part, they're totally okay with that. So if you've gone through Foundations Phonics, maybe you need some more practice before your child's ready for Language Lessons 1, or you're working through Language Lessons 1, but you want more practice, I would recommend utilizing My Story K, which is a social studies course for around kindergarten. But you might think that's a little bit of an odd recommendation, but there are vocabulary and scripture cards in the back of the book that are very concise. So you'll have a word here like provides, and this is a card that you can cut out, and you can just turn the page or cut it out, read the word, and then define the word. Provide gives something to another, such as God providing all we need. And those word collector cards are used throughout the lessons. There are also going to be scripture cards that you can use and cut out if you would like to do so. And then a really neat thing about the back of this is that you can create this book. It's called My Book Time. And you can fill in the student's name and they can answer the question. And then you go down in the story and you fill in the story with the student's information. And then you can help read it to them. You could co-read this, or if they're getting a little stronger, they can practice reading it to you, and then they can color or do whatever the activity is here. And at the end of doing this, you're going to have 36 pages, one for each lesson, of a book called My Book Time that's going to be all about them. And it's just a different idea for a resource for you if you need to practice extra reading or just something a little different. My Story K would be a really wonderful, wonderful book. Another idea could be collector coloring books. So we have collector coloring books. There are a lot of different varieties. This one's about birds. These are really great for morning time to keep your student busy but learning while you're working with another student. These are blank coloring books, and down here is a very simple text that shouldn't overwhelm too many students, and these would be great for highlighting for co-reading if you would like to do that. They come with stickers, so there's a whole page of stickers. So you find the sticker that matches your page and you stick it on there. You can encourage your student to try to color the page to match the sticker, but they don't have to if they don't want to. But the goal here is handwriting stamina through coloring and trying to read some of the words that you selectively pick out for them. So it's kind of learning fun without even realizing you're learning. Okay, another thing that I'd like to show you is Dinosaur Fun. I love dry erase. We use dry erase boards constantly. So Dinosaur Fun is a lot of fun. It's a dry erase book that goes A to Z with different names of dinosaurs. And even I struggle to read these words and names sometimes, so that's okay. That's an opportunity to be silly, as a matter of fact, with your child. But they can practice writing their letters. They can color all over the dinosaurs, as you see my child has done. And then it has questions at the top. Do dinosaurs play piano? Do dinosaurs surf? So super fun resource for extra handwriting practice. And the best part of all is if you make a mistake, you can just erase it away. And isn't that so wonderful about mistakes? We can just erase them away. We can try again over and over again. I personally love that because I need a big eraser sometimes. Okay, so create your own dictionary. When you do language lessons 1, Create Your Own Dictionary is a free download that you can access from the product page for language lessons. And it's a resource that the child can print out. You can print it out. They can color it. If you want to get fancy, you can print out your child's photo and they could put it here if they want. They could draw a self-portrait there. They could draw whatever they want on their title page. And they get to personalize it and say, this is by me. They can write their name in. So typically in language lessons 1, you're going to be assigned some words that you're going to fill out, and they're going to write them in and alphabetize them. So it's going to be A to Z, and they're going to learn how to alphabetize those words. But I encourage you to print this out, print out an additional copy, maybe an additional 2 copies, and use it for the purpose of extra reading practice and writing practice. So what you could end up doing is kind of making it like a very special themed book. So if your child is really excited about flowers, you could research flowers and their names, and you could write them in your Create Your Own Dictionary pages and make sure that they get alphabetized. You can draw a picture of them and read through them over and over through that. If your child is interested in animals, I would suggest going through the Marvels of Creation books. This one is about mammals. This one is Sensational Sea Creatures. And then we have birds. So the cool thing about these books is that they are already alphabetized for you. So you could just go through and say, hey, let's make a little Create Your Own Dictionary about birds just for fun. Go through, pick one, write down the bird's name, try to draw the bird. Have a lot of fun with it. It's kind of like creating a very personalized scrapbook about your child's interests. So even if your child is interested in vehicles or whatever they're really into. If there are enough words about that interest that you can put into a book and alphabetize, you could totally make that. You could make as many as you want. And again, as I said, that's a free download for you. Okay, so the Big Thoughts Morning Basket. A lot of people like to gather their family together in the morning or the afternoon or whenever it works for them, where we all come together at the same time to learn together and all focus on something at the same time. So the Big Thoughts Morning Basket is available. It does include the Big Thoughts books. It also includes this awesome book, God is Really, Really Real. In the beginning, it's going to have a story, and then at the end of the book, it's going to cover key doctrines that are very important to learn. And so the reading is pretty short, but there are some conversation questions at the bottom that can get us talking and learning about these concepts, like about prayer and things. So if you have those resources, those are excellent to utilize, but a really cool thing you might not know is that you can go to the morning basket on the website and scroll down, and you can download for free a schedule that shows you the order in which to read those books if you want to use it like a morning basket. And there's also copy work included, pages of copy work. Now these are double-sided, so there's quite a few pages right here of copy work for your student to go through. So if I'm going to have my student do extra copy work for extra practice, I want them to be not just copying something that doesn't really make sense or doesn't have a lot of meaning. I want my student to copy, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. I want them to copy that so that that's what we get to talk about. So be sure to utilize that free download of the Big Thoughts for Little Thinkers copy work. It's on masterbooks.com. Look for Big Thoughts for Little Thinkers Morning Basket. Scroll down and you can access it that way. So some ideas, further ideas. Create your own idea jars. You could have several containers that are set aside for silly language time. I don't know about you, as I said earlier, we just need to laugh sometimes, and we need to incorporate some silly into our day, so it's good for everybody. You could have a container that would be labeled subject, verb, and adjective. You could have the funnest time writing out like ideas or just talking these ideas through to create and tell funny stories, but you have to use the subject, the verb, and the adjective, or the destination if you choose, to create a really funny story. What is the cowboy going to do when he hula hoops, through the jungle? You can come up with funny things, and hopefully by doing that, you can take that teachable moment and remind your student, oh yeah, remember, who's the subject? And hopefully that can just become a fun memory maker for you and to improve language and communication skills and developing their imagination. So another idea, you could write sight words on strips of paper or words that your child needs to work on. And you could tape them to a ball and then toss the ball back and forth to each other. When your student catches the ball, they will remove a strip of paper and see if they can read that word, and you can work on it with them. And they can toss it back to you and go back and forth. That could just be a different, fun way to review tricky sight words or words that they need to focus on. Another idea for sight words is sight word gazing. You could write words on index cards, or if you want to get really fancy, you can get yellow paper in the shape of stars, write your word on there, and tape it to your ceiling or tape it to the underside of a table. And go and turn all the lights off, crawl under the table or lay down in your room and call out a sight word. Your children can turn on their flashlight and shine their light on the word that you called. You can talk about how it's spelled, how it sounds. It doesn't look like how it sounds, does it? You could do all those things and chant it or whatever you need to do to make the game more fun. You can do an adventure hunt around your house, kind of like the idea I shared earlier where you label things in your house, but this time you could theme it. You could go on like a safari hunt. So we're looking for tiger. We're looking for the word tiger. Oh, now we're looking for the snake. Okay, so you could go through your whole house together. You could get dressed up if you want to with whatever theme you choose to do and go on a word hunt in your home. So another way to practice sight words, part of speech words, or words that your children really need to work on, all the while getting their energy out and helping their gross motor skills, would be like a gross motor sight word game. So you would write down the words you feel are needed on a card and tape it to the wall, and then you and your child would stand on the opposite side of the room. You tell your child what the word is that they're going to go look for and get, but they can't go yet until you tell them how they have to get the word. So some ideas could be crab walking, hopping on one foot, army crawling, somersault, running, skipping, zigzag walking, or anything that you come up with. This is really fun because you can see how they're doing with their gross motor skills. They can have fun along the way and go and grab the word that they need, and you can read through it together and work on it together. And then they can like hop back to you and try it all over again. And this time maybe they will do, cartwheels on the way there. The sky's the limit for that one. You can create a journal together just by using a simple spiral notebook, and you can fill it with daily prayer requests, a verse of the day, or fill it with things that you're grateful for. This can be a great way to reinforce and rejoice in how God is always working in our lives. You can make it a habit to look back on the previous week, reading through everything that happened and praising God for it before you start filling in a new week. You can discuss how God was faithful each week to the next. You could hop into the car and drive around and start finding signs, even a stop sign. Oh, what does that sign say? Stop. Oh, let's keep going down the road. What do we see? There's the car wash. Can you find the name of the car wash? And then try to read it. Oh, and keep going down the road. What do we see? Oh, there's our favorite restaurant. What's the first letter of the name of our restaurant that we like? And just go around and try to read signs together. That could just be a different and fun way to get out and enjoy each other and go on like a little sign reading hunt there. Another resource I'd like to share with you is the work of your hand. The reading content on this is probably best suited for mom or dad, depending on your child's reading level. But this teaches that God has designed you specially, and you have a unique fingerprint in this world. There's only one of you, but it also even teaches like how fingerprints are designed to be very unique. It's a really adorable book that my kids and I love to do, but one of the coolest parts is found in the back of the book. In the back of the book, you can actually create your own fingerprint art. So once they learn about their fingerprint and how unique they are, they can do fingerprint art. And at the bottom of the page is a simple, short, not too overwhelming, hopefully for your child, a Bible verse that you could help them read through. And that could just be an activity that you do together. So if you don't want to mark in your actual book, that's okay. You can go on the product page for the work of your hand and scroll down. There is a free download there that you can download and print all of those thumbprint, fingerprint art pages, and you can use them with your children and create lots of different creations. Give them away to grandma if you want to, but that could be just a lot of fun to do that together. More Than Words Level 1. If you have a child who's more closer to second or third grade, if they want more, if they want to do more, they want to practice more, they want more handwriting, they want a challenge, you could totally add this in because it's going to cover some character traits, it's going to have poetry in it, it's going to have copy work where they're going to copy, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, Ephesians 2:10. There's going to be a key truth each week that they can copy. There's even periodically where they will introduce a character trait, and your student will have to recall what is a synonym of this character trait, what is an antonym of this character trait. This could be used and applied in a lot of different ways, but through this they'll be learning hymns, character traits, sharpening their biblical skills, sharpening their handwriting, and I would even recommend when you get started on reading these journal entries, this would be perfect for co-reading because you could highlight what you want your child to read. Again, this could be something that they work on if you're kind of in between or if your child needs a little bit more. Okay, Where Faith Grows, Level 1 has been amazing for me and my kids. We're currently using it for kindergarten, second grade, and third grade, and we are loving it. It's helping them grow in their faith so much, and it's so awesome when you incorporate masterbooksacademy.com with it. There's an academy course that goes with it that shows video and the dialogue between the characters in the course, speaking to each other, and we get to follow along with that. So I really recommend going through that because just watching and listening is sharpening our listening and our attentive skills. And then we go into our book work and we do whatever the activity is for the day, whether that's drawing something or writing something or reinforcing the concept there. I bring up the Academy course for Where Faith Grows because there's like almost a hidden gem there at the bottom. The Academy course is an additional cost, but it is an amazing value, and I really encourage you to get it because it includes a very generous section full of favorite read-aloud books for young learners. It shows the pictures, and you can just put on the video of their favorite Master Books book, and it's going to read right to your children for you, which is amazing. Sometimes I kind of go upstairs and get a cup of coffee while a book is being read to my children. Okay, I really encourage you to check that course out, Where Faith Grows Level 1. It is amazing. And then another thing on masterbooksacademy.com that you'll want to check out is Wowza Brain. There's going to be Level 1 is the Better Letters program, and that would be geared more towards students that are coming out of Simply K that might need to work on their letters a bit more. Or you could even go into Foundations Phonics. You could use it alongside of Foundations Phonics, or you could use it after Foundations Phonics before going into Language Lessons 1. And then Level 2 is going to take a step further from just letters into blending. So I really encourage you to check out Wowza Brain on the masterbooksacademy.com if you need to focus in a little more. On the Academy, once you create a free account, you can access and check out the first week of the courses and play sample videos and look at the schedules and kind of see what you're going to be getting with each course. It's just been such a blessing to our family. We just love the Academy. Okay, we're almost to the end, and all I want to do to close out is to share with you some early reading books that Master Books has. If I'm going to sit down and read with my kids, there's a variety of content out there that I could read to them, but I want to be intentional with my time that I have with them. And so I want to instill in them a love of learning and a love of learning from God's Word and to reinforce what He has for them. And so that's why I love these books so much. So I'm going to go ahead and start showing them to you. This one's really fun because it's shaped like a little guy, and it's All God's Creatures, Why We Look Different. So it's going to teach our children about other places in the world and other people who live there and how we're all connected. And it's really cool. It's a super fun little book, but even young students that are learning to read hopefully wouldn't be overwhelmed by the amount of text on the page. And they could have a lot of fun checking out, even on a globe if they wanted to, where this is. So that's All God's Children. And then we have It's Designed to Do What It Does Do. Okay, this is super fun because of the eyeballs, obviously. But every page you go, there's a new animal that you get to see with those eyeballs. Okay, that's a lot of fun. And then the text is pretty small, not too overwhelming, and you can help your student through it. And then there's this really fun rhyme. Okay, it's a bit of a tongue twister, and so you have to kind of start off reading it slowly. But once you get better and better, I dare you to read it faster and faster. It says, say this out loud. It's designed to do what it does do. What it does. Oh, see, I already messed it up. I'm going to start over. Sorry, guys. Telling you, it's tough. It's designed to do what it does do. What it does do well, doesn't it? Yes, it does. I think it does. Do you? I hope you do too. Do you? That's fun. That's got the letter D in it a lot, right? So we can just have fun with our kids going through it. And just like I messed up reading it, that's okay. It's good for our kids to see us kind of stumble through things sometimes, to let them know everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. That's part of learning, right? So that's a really fun book. You should definitely check that one out. And then we have Remarkable Rescue. It's a board book that's got just a few lines on a page that a child could read and feel like they could get through, and they're learning all about Noah and God's remarkable rescue of Noah and his family. This really sweet book is The Very Best Plan. It's just gorgeous and adorable, but it also talks all through God's way is best. His plans are best, and we need to trust in his plan. Aren't the illustrations adorable? And there's just about 4 lines per page. This is the very best plan, you see, because that's how God meant marriage to be. Really sweet. Okay, so then we have the My Creation Bible. It's got this cute little handle, which is really fun to carry around. And you could have your children just read through one page and then put a bookmark in and stop, or you could just read the whole thing through to them. It goes from creation to the cross, the need for the cross, the need to be saved, and it ends pointing to heaven, that Jesus is the way to be saved. So it's a truly wonderful book. It's very concise, got a great message, and really great option for a young reader to want to read over and over again. Okay, so this book set is really awesome. It's like the When You See books. There are 3 in the set. We'll get them out here so I can show them to you. Okay, so let me start off with When You See a Star. It's got a fun, scratchy little star there. So it's going to go through and it's going to be rhyming, teaching your child all throughout about stars, and that when we see a star, we want to think of God because God created the stars. It doesn't just stop there, though. Yes, it's an adorable book, but there is so much more in this part that if you have a student that's really interested in learning more, or you yourself want to dive a little deeper, you can read a lot more about the purposes of the heavenly bodies and learn a lot more about stars. So that's a really awesome book. And then you have When You See a Rainbow, which reminds us that the rainbow is a promise from God. When you see a rainbow, remember God's promise and the reason he sent the rainbow, the reason that we have that. And then here you have your extra information page there. And then the other book in the set is When You See a Cloud. When you see a cloud, they soar so high, so free, so far, remind us just how small we are, but not so small that we can't see God's nearness and his majesty. And in the back, yet again, is a whole section about clouds and their purpose. This ends with, I pray that clouds remind you how God loves you and is near you now. What a wonderful message to share with our kids right when they're just sitting next to us or on our lap reading. Other great books for reading with your kids, to your kids, or having them try to read to you would be the Tiny Book and the Big Book. These are excellent rhyming books, but the amount of text on a page, again, is not going to overwhelm a student. And it's going to point out many things that God designed that are tiny, many things that are big. And then you have the Bombus books. These tell a really sweet story about Bombus the bumblebee, how he finds a friend, how he finds his purpose, and realizes that he was designed for a very specific purpose by God. And our kids need to hear that message too, that they are designed by God for a very specific purpose. So it can reinforce that and remind them just how special they are. So then we have Noah's Ark for kids. This is going to go all through Noah's Ark, and it's such a fun and sweet book. And it helps them to imagine what it might have been like being on the ark, being with the animals. It says, and just imagine the sounds they made like an animal orchestra playing all day. Isn't that fun? This is a board book, but it's a little bit thicker, and it's really cool. Definitely check that one out. That's called Inside Noah's Ark for Kids. And my kids really like this book, When Dragons' Hearts Were Good. This would be another great book that you could read to your kids. They could read to you in small stages. This is a really great one. And then the last one I'm going to show you is called Westley the Big Truck. If you're ever feeling a little broken down, in need of repair, just go to the one who created you, because he knows how to fix you, because he made you. And that is what this is about. And boys especially love this book because it's about a big red truck and how he has to go in and get fixed up. And it's just such a wonderful book to read together to remind our kids. It actually even shows them like parts of the truck and how it's put together and all of those kinds of things. And in the end, it's just going to remind them that we were designed and put together with great care, and that God is our designer. So that's a really great reading book too. Okay, I made it through all of those books that I wanted to share with you. And I just really hope that those resources shared and ideas shared can be beneficial to you and your student. Teaching our kids to read can really be such a sweet time. We have the opportunity to cozy up with our little ones and share one-on-one time with them. And that time is really special. I know that I can often get really busy thinking about all the things I need to get through in my day and how I need to go get supper started or whatever it is I need to do. And I regret the times that my children said, "Mommy, will you read this book to me?" And I said, "Not right now, I have to do something else." And so now I'm catching myself. Every time I want to say, "No, I need to do something else," I'm telling myself, if you can, do it. So if they say, "Mommy, will you read me this book?" I'll say, yes. I try to say yes as much as I can. But even if I'm right in the middle of something, I say, "I would love to read that to you. Let's put it on the counter, and as soon as I'm done, we're going to do it." And then I need to make sure that I do it. It's just really an important time, and I don't want to miss it, and I know you don't want to miss it either. We don't have to fear teaching our kids how to read. Remember that comparison is only going to steal celebration. And I don't know about you, but I love to celebrate. So be sure to celebrate the unique child that God has given to you, and enjoy reading together as you journey through this season and this stage. It's a one of a kind. And I know you're just going to have so much fun together. Go at their pace, go at your pace, and trust God all the way. Thanks, guys.